1:30 this morning, 61-year-old farmer Cliff Young ran himself into the history books when he completed the Sydney to Melbourne Marathon Plus in 5 days, 15 hours and 4 minutes, beating the previous record by almost 2 days.
The Cliff Young story captivated the nation. Cliff was the underdog and people just embraced him.
Cliffy became the most famous person in Australia. And I guess it's because Cliffy had an unusual style. He's an unusual sort of person you would think to be winning that race.
Ladies and gentlemen, Cliff Young.
Had Tony Rafferty, or indeed myself, won it, I think it would have been an interesting news story that would have faded within a couple of weeks. But for someone like Cliff to do it was something that really sparked Australian imagination. You know, a 61-year-old single man who chased cattle round his farm in gumboots.
I know that I speak for everyone and, in congratulating you. You really, in a very short time, established yourself as one of the really great Australians of all time.
What do you feel about that, then?
Feel about what?
Being a folk hero.
Oh, I don't mind, but it doesn't swell my head. I still get the same hat I used to wear. Still, I don't make any difference to me.
Cliff was a simple man and led a simple life, but he was not a simpleton.
This is just a real ordinary bloke, but real ordinary blokes are capable of extraordinary things.
Why'd you wait until 61 to tackle something like this? I think I must be a bit mad.
He was a little fella who became larger than life, and everyone who was alive at that time remembers Cliff as much as they remember, the man landing on the moon. Probably both as unlikely as each other.
Cliff grew up with 5 sisters and a brother on a little farm at Beach Forest, right in the middle of the Otways. They didn't have a lot of money. They would have grown their own fruit and a lot of veggies.
How poor, in fact, were you, Cliff? How poor was the
we were
family?
pretty poor. We went through the Great Depression and everything. We were all our own kids then.
Right.
Pretty poor. Sometimes we had to run a rabbit down before we could eat.
Cliffy told me that he did have a crush on one girl in Colac, and I don't know what exactly happened, but I think he got a bit hurt. And from then on, he decided that the single life was for him, living at home with his mother.
Cliff was a very closed book. He loved his mother, who was a great woman and a very intelligent woman as well. But there wasn't much in Cliff's life when he was living in the Otway Ranges. He would go running for probably 30 kilometres a day. He would run through the hills. That was his existence.
How do you think it started?
Well, I don't really know. He got the idea, of course, when he used to be rounding up his brother's cattle, he'd tear around after them, and he seemed to have an idea that he could run.
I believe he used to chase the cattle in gumboots.
Yes, that's right.
He ran in gumboots because the puddles were always 6 inches deep. The rain was incessant.
That rustic, uncomplicated environment suited him down to the ground, but it was ideally suited to ultramarathon running.
Going back to your early days, when you said you ran everywhere and all that, did you in those days, did you want to be? Did you see yourself as being a runner? Did you want to be in the Olympic Games and that sort of thing?
I used to have sort of daydreams, we used to think about how famous you'd get. I used to think I could do it when I was a kid and that. And I finally proved I could do it.
People thought he was a bit crazy. And so Cliff really didn't belong. And what he wanted was to belong to another group, and that group was long-distance runners. I first met Cliff during the first Melbourne Marathon. Here he was in a pair of Fletcher Jones trousers, a thick woolen jumper.
How much is it going to be worth to bring you down?
he ran away from everyone. He won the age group in a canter. And people were going, God, where's he come from?
In early 1981, the co-founders and joint managing directors of Westfield issued a decree to all shopping centre management marketing people to come up with an idea that'll put Westfield on the map. So I put a proposal together for a Westfield fun run. But what's going to really get it across the line is it's got to start from the centre stage in Westfield Parramatta and end at the Doncaster shopping town east of Melbourne.
And that developed into an open invitation. If you felt you were good enough, you could enter, and 10 grand, whoever won it.
They weren't just ordinary runners in that big inaugural Sydney to Melbourne ultramarathon. They were world champions. They'd come from all over the world.
I was advised that there were 14 runners, but there was one that was a real problem. He's 61. The words I got told was, we're not going to have some old geriatric die on the Hume Highway during our race. And I got told to fix it. So I rang Mr. Young, Mr. Cliff Young, asked him to come up to Doncaster to come for a run with me because we had no application process. There was no sort of, testing or anything. We went for about 2 to 3 hours and we start hitting this hill. Conversation ceases. I'm putting on some pressure because I wasn't too bad of a runner back then. But bugger me, he's still on me a shoulder. And I'm thinking, I'm 27, this guy's 61, this is an outlier.
Cliff knew that there weren't too many of these runners better than him or could beat him. And he knew how good they were, but they didn't know how good he was.
From Victoria, John Connolly.
Naively and arrogantly, I did think of Cliff's team comparatively as quite amateurish.
He was a very clever runner, but the general public didn't know that. I did. I was almost sure that Cliff would finish that race, and would even be perhaps a race between the two of us.
The gun goes off, they start, they all run away, and they get a bit mixed up in the traffic through the street. And Cliff gets turned one way and he runs 1 kilometre the wrong way. George Purdon, one of the favoured runners in the race, could see what was happening and he yelled out to Cliff, "Turn around, Cliff, and come back this way." If Cliff hadn't turned around, that would have been the end of his Sydney to Melbourne marathon.
Cliff, he was wearing plastic pants, waterproof pants that you would wear playing golf or something like that. But he'd cut holes in them, and those were the only pants that he had from the very start of the race to the finish.
He had varicose veins and he was a little bit proud, so he didn't like everybody to see that.
It wasn't only the longest, the toughest and the richest ultramarathon in the world, it was the most dangerous.
The Hume Highway was not a very sophisticated road. It was still, in many places, single lane either direction. A couple of times I really recall almost being knocked over by the wind suction behind the truck as they whizzed past.
You've got to be with it on that road, you get run over. You've got to be reasonably with it. There was a lot of near misses and that sort of thing. I reckon I could have got hit with a semi-trailer or something like that and never got to Melbourne at all.
Stones fired like bullets from the wheels of speeding semi-trailers. Bruises all over my legs. I had blistered and bloodied feet and swollen ankles.
Ultramarathoning, it's different even from running a marathon and requires a certain strength of mind and body that most of us just don't have. Your body tends to shut down Your kidneys are stressed and blood in the urine is not uncommon.
You go through quite extraordinary emotional highs and lows, really dark times. You're saying to yourself, you know, do I really want to keep going? Do I really want to keep this pain?
The challenge that they faced was so extraordinary and so new that they came to some sort of gentleman's agreement that they'd have a sleep at night until first light in the morning. That plan went completely haywire.
In Cliffy's crew, you had Wally. He was the Colac Football Club masseur, and the first night he set the alarm clock for what he thought was 6 o'clock, but he'd set it for just after 2 because he couldn't see very well in the dark. The alarm goes off and Wally says, "Righto, Cliff, you're off and running now, see you later." So Cliff runs off into the dark. So after a while, Cliffy sort of stops and turns around to the guys driving the van. "Hey, I've been running here for a long time and there's no sunrise, what's going on?" Wally said, "Just keep going, keep going." And of course, then it was realised that it had put him 30 k's in front.
From then on, he barely slept the entire run. They never saw him again. Goodbye, Cliff.
One of the things that people remember was Cliffy's distinctive running style, and it quickly became known as the Cliff Young Shuffle.
When I did the role playing Cliffy Young, the running style wasn't easy to nail. But I saw some ABC News footage, unedited, and that's when I noticed how far his elbows came out behind him, and therefore how straight he was. It's a very efficient way of running because your backside muscles and thighs are absorbing the concussion on the ground rather than your joints if you stand up taller. So it all clicked after that.
The Cliffy Shuffle became famous in that run, but it all started back in the Otway Ranges.
Running in gumboots around the farm developed this style of economical running where it could just keep going and keep going.
We always talk about the Cliffy Young Shuffle, but when you shuffle along with him, as I've done, it's not that slow.
I just embedded it in my body by doing it over and over again, and I could turn it on like that by the end.
I was leading the field after the first turn. I thought, well, if I can keep this up, I'll win it, because if I've got to climb these hills, I'm already up them.
I was getting belted up by a 61-year-old potato farmer. That was a hard thing to accept.
I knew that the pouring rain and the wind suited where Cliff had come from. That was all stuff he was used to. And I remember saying, we can't win this.
By the time he got to the outskirts of Melbourne, which was still 30 or 40 miles from where the finish of the race was, all these thousands of people had started running with him, going, "Cliff B, Cliff B, come on, Cliffy." It was just hysteria.
Crowd helps.
What about all the noise and the fire engines?
Oh, no, I couldn't bear the noise. I got sick of that Cliffy.
We're less than 40 kilometres outside Melbourne, and Cliff Young is kilometres ahead of where his organisers anticipated that he would be. He wasn't expected in Melbourne until around about 6 o'clock tomorrow morning. Now it's going to be 12:30, just after midnight. And what is more remarkable about this feat for this sexagenarian potato farmer from Beach Forest is that he's made it in a headwind, in driving rain and cold winds. He's so determined. Let's catch up with him now. Let's catch up with him. He's just gone past me. I don't know how he keeps it up. Keep going, keep going. Cliff, we're from Nationwide.
Yeah.
You're on the outskirts of Melbourne. How are you feeling?
Oh, not too bad. I think I'll make it all right.
You are going to make it all right?
Yes, for sure.
Sydney Road in Melbourne was just jam-packed. There was traffic jams. The run through the city must have been really tough.
The people of Melbourne have turned out to cheer him on, as you can see now. We're on a hill overlooking Melbourne and Cliff has the lights of the city in sight for the first time.
He was now running on adrenaline and was getting chaotic.
It was after 875 kilometres. Cliff Young, the 61-year-old potato farmer, the inexperienced runner that many people, especially the Sydney siders, thought would never make it. He is crossing the finishing line right now, more than 50 kilometres ahead of his closest rival. An absolutely mammoth achievement.
When he arrived, there was a bit of a blank look on his face, and he wasn't stable. I mean, gosh, he'd run 24 hours straight.
His mum was stunned at how many people were there, and she was so proud because Cliff was vindicated. Thousands, millions around Australia thought he was a national hero. This little fella who'd been running around the Otway ranges for all those years.
What are you going to do with the $10,000? I think the poor fellas, the others, are going to be second and third prize, so I'll give a second and third prize. Them, and then any finisher will get something. Mightn't be much, but be something.
Cliff whispered to me, it's nice to get the 10,000, but I want to break it down into equal amounts for the rest of the competitors who finish.
Well, you said you wouldn't do it again. Why is that? Oh, it's too hard. Too hard? Yeah. It was all right till today, but today seemed to bigger me up properly. I thought the farm was pretty hard. Oh, no, nothing like this. No, the farm wouldn't kill you.
Cliffy lost 8 toenails, and those 8 toes were extremely infected, and he didn't complain at all. But when I put him into bed that night after the press conference, took his shoes off and he was grimacing, and I looked at his toes and they were just full of pus, and that's what he'd been running on.
Things happened very fast for Cliff. He was all over the place.
Cliff Young has become a household name within a week. To recognise the achievement, the city centre came to a pause at lunchtime.
It was certainly a wonderful experience to come along the road here when I was running in and see the great crowd. It helped a lot to get me here.
Cliff was feted all over Melbourne. He had the keys to the city. He went to big functions at Parliament House, all sorts of stuff. He loved it.
When it was all over and we got back to Colac, everybody had been waiting for him to come home, so we had a parade down the street.
All my friends are here, and a lot of people that aren't my friends are here as well.
Bigger thrill than Melbourne?
Oh, yeah, pretty good, yeah.
Coming back to Colac was sensational. The people loved him, they embraced him. Here he was now, a national icon, a treasure.
I always remember one time I said, well, you've got all these fans now. What about the women? You've got a lot of female fans out there. He just looked at me, he scratched his chin and he said, been thinking a lot about that lately, Dick.
Are you enjoying being a celebrity?
Oh, I think it's marvellous.
Yeah?
Yeah, I like it.
What do you like best about it?
Oh, well, I'll tell you what I like best. It seems to soothe me. Kissing the girls before I go on, you know, give me a bit of confidence.
About halfway through the race, we received the first of a number of love letters.
When he got back to Colac, the phone started ringing. There was all these women wanting to talk to him. But he said Mary was most persistent. And so he invited her around. He said, we headed off straight away. He said, we headed off straight away. He said, we walked out. He said, after lunch, after dinner, I took her out onto the veranda. We sat there for a while. He said, I gave her one. quick one. He said, and then I took her down the paddock later and I showed where I planted all my potatoes. He said, we had another quick one down there, and come back by this time, shaking. And he said, I'd never kissed a girl before, which was great relief to everybody he told the story to.
What are you doing now?
I'm still running, training, yeah. And looking after Mary before long.
This is your impending nuptials.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so you're not going to go on a sort of morning jog on the...
Yeah, I'm going an early jog that morning. I've got to keep my training up.
Yeah.
Get ready for the night, Get fit.
When Cliffy met Mary, she was 22, he was 61, and it was certainly talked about.
It was surely the biggest event Port Arlington's seen for many a long day, and the crowd which greeted Cliff and his mother Mary gave the bride just as warm a welcome. A much larger crowd greeted them at the Westfield shopping town at Airport West in Melbourne. Cliff and Mary renewing vows taken only a couple of hours earlier.
We come before you.
Westfield offered Cliff and Mary that they pay for the wedding, they'll do it in a shopping centre. It sat a bit hard with his mum and his family. But those of us who were a bit nervous about the aesthetics of it all, we swallowed our pride and we went, and that was a nice wedding. They got on well together and they were probably mentally pretty level with each other.
I don't know what the relationship really was, other than a companion, and that she became a wedge between Mike Tonkin and Cliffy and started to call the shots.
I managed his business affairs and bookings, but one day Cliff and Mary came into my office and said, Mike, we've been having a talk and we think it's time Mary just took over from her and we'll go our separate ways. I felt sad that this is over and they're gone and I'm not part of that story anymore. In fact, I know I had tears in my eyes when they walked out. I didn't let them see that, but I did.
Some people think he was a silly old bugger about Mary or about choices in his life, but that's just life.
Since I married Mary, I didn't have a grey hair till then, but by gee, this last 5 years it's changing colour.
Is it?
Yeah.
Cliff had led a bachelor's life for 61 years, so it was never going to be easy as a relationship.
You happy?
Oh, sometimes. Not all the time.
Not all the time? Do you have a bit of a blue
Yeah,
now and
we
again?
have our moments.
Do you?
Yeah.
The irrepressible Cliff Young had this to say about married life with Mary.
Yeah, married to Mary 5 years. Seems like 105, but it's only 5.
Cliffy's marriage to Mary only lasted about 5 years, and there was a lot of discussion around, was it the age difference or was it about Cliff being, too set in his ways? I don't know.
He's 70 and Cliffy Young continues to do as he likes. And what he likes to do is run.
Cliff went on to run many, many ultras. That became his career and his life.
But before his attempt to complete 170 kilometres in 24 hours, the veteran long-distance runner had to face a fitness test.
He just loved running. He just wanted to keep running forever and ever. And he didn't really care whether he won or lost or whatever. He wanted just to stay involved.
While the body hardly shows the signs of age, the spirit in once married, now divorced Cliffy is just as willing.
When we first met Cliff, he was lonely. The marriage had fallen apart, and that probably broke him up. He came to Wollongong, where we used to live. That would have been around 93.
He had no crew, and we looked at Cliff and I said, we could crew for you, Cliff, but you'll just have to let us know what to do.
Yeah, these are some memories of the run around Australia.
We used to give his legs a massage and that, but we wouldn't touch his feet because we've got a phobia about feet. So we said, Mum, that's your job.
It's an unmistakable running style, a shuffle which has carried 75-year-old Cliff Young many thousands of kilometres. And it's a shuffle heading for Perth. And while the going is rough on his feet, he reckons it's tougher on the support crew.
I know I could get, crotchety at times, like everyone does, from lack of sleep and stupidity.
We moved to the Sunshine Coast and Cliff would come and visit as much as he could, and then he eventually moved in with us.
The last 3 years, he was just like a grandpa. He was just like family. Yeah.
That's when he was in hospital.
Yeah. Yeah.
At Maryborough, poor fella. But you know what? He didn't die alone. No. He was very much loved right to the very end. Cliffy's health wasn't real good. One stage in his life he had cancer from here right around here. Then he's had the prostate. He was a little Aussie battler, and I enjoyed having that Aussie battler in my home and nursing him right to the end.
He started to fade, and in 2003, November I think, I got a phone call from the ladies who were looking after him, and I flew up to see how he was, and he wasn't well. He was lying there very quiet, and I started whispering in his ear a few stories from that great Sydney to Melbourne marathon. I reminded him of the man in the crowd who was running alongside him for about 10 miles, yelling out, "Come on, Cliffy boy, come on, Cliffy boy, come on, Cliffy boy." And Cliff opened his eyes and they shone. And it was a really lovely moment.
A small gathering of family and friends has turned out for the funeral of ultramarathon runner Cliff Young. Those at his funeral today heard tributes from friends and fellow runners, as well as twins Paula and Bridget Powers, known as Cliff's Angels.
Cliff Young has done his best. Now, for God's sake, let him rest. He just had determination all through his life to run. Even the last few days when he was around in the backyard running. Yeah, it was just amazing. He was just an extraordinary man.
Looking back at that time, it was something that no one had even dreamed of. Couldn't write a book about it because it would be sort of hard to believe. Could it ever happen again? Oh, I don't think that's going to ever be matched.
People are still talking about him. He's still the Aussie battler, he's the Aussie icon, and he's as good as the Melbourne Cup.
I think the greatest moral of the Cliff Young story is you're never too old. He was 61, but he was just finding his footsteps.